Healthcare reform continues to be the major domestic issue on Congress and the White House plate here in Washington, D.C. This weekend, we decided to get at public opinion on healthcare reform a little different way, using a three-part question. We ask Americans if they fairly strongly support healthcare reform, oppose it, or if their final decision would actually depend on the details that are still being worked out. What do we find? Well, a not insignificant 39% of Americans say, in essence, their vote, if it were a vote, would depend on what finally happens as the details are being worked out. We have about a third of Americans who are firmly opposed, regardless of what happens, and we have 25% who are firmly in favor of the bill, say they'll vote for it regardless of what happens. But you take that 39% and put it on either side and you would have a majority. So there is some flexibility here, it looks like. We did take those who say their position on healthcare reform depends and ask them which way they lean. And here we see they split about like those who currently have a firm opinion. So we end up with 44% who support healthcare reform or lean that way, and 49% who say they oppose it or lean that way. And that's about what we found in other research. In other words, it's close with a slight tilt towards those who oppose. Some interesting partisan distinctions. Republicans feel more strongly in their opposition than Democrats do in their support. Look at these numbers. 62% of Republicans say they oppose a new health care bill, regardless of how details are worked out. On the other hand, 47%, a little less than half of Democrats, say they support it, regardless of what details are worked out. Independents are kind of in the middle, but those who have an opinion lean towards saying they oppose the bill. Bottom line out of all of this, there is a significant hunk of Americans who are up for grabs, it would look like, when it comes to their attitudes on health care reform. But when we take into account which way they lean, we find what we've been reporting to you in recent weeks and months, opinion split with a slight tilt towards opposition to a new health care reform law. I'm Gallup Editor-in-Chief, Dr. Frank Newport.